Steve Dotto here. How the heck you doing this fine day? And welcome to Gray Matters, the podcast for boomers and Gen Xers. As this podcast drops, it's going to be September of 2025. And for me, I don't know about you, but for me, September is really the beginning of the year. It's the beginning of the business year. It's when things start. Instead of doing New Year's resolutions and kind of feeling that I have to recommit myself in January, as so many do at the start of the calendar year, I always feel that September is the time that I really need to dig deep, focus, and get on track. It's getting back on track because summer has derailed me. I haven't concentrated as much on work. I've concentrated a lot more on just things that make me happy or family things, enjoying the summer. And so as I come back and sit in the desk again and really start working on the new year, on regular work stuff as opposed to summer stuff. So this is the beginning of the year, as far as I'm concerned. This is the beginning of the school year. My wife is a teacher, and so many of us have kids, and I think this is a familiar refrain for a lot of us, that September is a really important month. And when we think about what it takes to succeed, what it takes to really to be our best, I'm often brought back to a quote that one of our guest today, Fotine, puts forward, and that is just showing up. 90% of success, did somebody say that? I don't know if I'm going to get this quote right, but 90% of success is just showing up. It's being there. It's being present. And showing up is not just physically being there, but it's being there here, up mentally. It's being committed mentally. It's being focused. It's staying on task. It's not getting distracted. And in this day and age, with so much distraction just calling out to us between TikTok and Facebook and texting and messaging and your phone and then whatever communication package, Slack or whatever communication package you happen to use with your team, being present mentally is, I think, far more difficult than being present physically. So it's just food for thought. That presence, being there, showing up, is a worthwhile goal. It's not just a given anymore. It's a goal. You've got to show up. You've got to be there. You've got to be present. And that's the biggest message I'm going to take. I just finished editing today's podcast, which you will hear momentarily as Vivica and Fotine will I think give you much food for thought. It's September. It's time to show up.
Hey everyone, if you've ever wondered what it really takes to trade the corporate ladder for a business of your own without losing your vision or your sanity, you're going to want to hear from today's guest. Fotine is the founder of Thavma Consulting, a strategy-first firm that helps veterinary services and other companies grow from promising startups to standout market leaders. With over 18 years of experience as a corporate strategist and now a fractional CMO, she made the leap from Fortune 500 boardrooms to solopreneurship with purpose and precision. We're going to dive into her transition and unpack why bold strategy, authentic connection, and measurable results aren't just buzzwords. They're the foundation of a sustainable business. Fotine and I met at Agents of Change, and I freaking adore her, and she's so smart. Disclaimer, she is also one of my clients, but what I will say is Fotine, more than anyone, has taken the tools that she's been given and launched in such a powerful way. Like, my mind is blown every time I see her activity and her engagement and just her business growth online. So I'm so excited to welcome you here today, Fotine.
Well, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
What instigated the need to transition out of corporate and into entrepreneurship?
So honestly, at the time, it was a personal decision. And in the back of my mind, I thought I'd eventually go back to corporate, but I prioritized my family. And I had a little girl and had focused family time, which was hugely important to me. And when I started to think about going back to work, I thought about the things that were important to me, which were vastly different than they were, the 18 months before I had my little girl. And I had also had the opportunity to be out of the hustle culture, which was what I was raised in. It's what I knew, it's where I felt comfortable. And I tried to go back. But while I was doing that and looking for the perfect fit, I started consulting. And the more I started consulting, the more I realized that I really just wanted to go out on my own. I wanted to be able to bring value to customers, to work on a variety of different projects, and be able to manage my life, be able to show up authentically and completely at work, but also in my personal life, and not just be a passenger. For those of us who spent a lot of time in corporate, I'm sure this resonates. I felt like a passenger in my own life, and I wasn't unhappy, and I had a pretty good life, but something felt like it was missing. Having my daughter changed that, but then having something of my own that I could build and also show her you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it.
What would you say to someone who is feeling that weight and wanting to make the transition into entrepreneurship? Like, we see it happen all the time, but usually it's not a successful transition. What words of advice would you give to a new entrepreneur so that they might experience the kind of success that you have?
One, I would say don't go at it alone. Right. So I consulted for a little while before I launched my business, and I learned a lot. I had to fire my first client, and I was agreeing to almost anything. That became my new tagline. I sort of ended up in the same place where I was doing way too much and not necessarily feeling fulfilled. And I knew I needed to make a change. And so I thought, okay, I need someone to help me. And I need to surround myself with a community. And that's a community of mentors and coaches. And then my own community. I know we're post-COVID, but some of that aftermath of sort of separating from your community because you don't see them every day, it has continued. But I started reaching out and showing up and doing the old school thing and picking up my phone and calling people and saying, hey, what's going on in your world? And that did a couple of things. One, it didn't make me feel so alone, but two, it inspired me. Every conversation I had sparked an idea or a thought. And then the Agents of Change conference was very random for me. It popped up on my LinkedIn and I thought, I know I need to do something. I don't know exactly what that is yet. And I know I want to officially launch my business, but I need some help, some guidance. And so that pumped up on my LinkedIn. I signed up 2 days before. I showed up and it just fell into place. John from Duct Tape Marketing was the second speaker I saw. And then the fourth speaker I saw was you. And I thought, oh, this is why this popped up on my LinkedIn, right? The universe sort of, I put it out there that I needed something and it guided me. And when I did that, things started to move differently for me because all of a sudden I had a little bit of guidance, but I think the not feeling alone and being able to, bounce things off of people, not only to spark ideas, but also to reinforce, what my own strengths are, because solopreneurship can be isolating and lonely. And I know you can appreciate this. Your imposter syndrome shows up all the time. And so, what I would say is do not go at it alone. Find people who can support you in ways that you need and offer guidance, because it makes a world of difference.
There's a couple things that you said, which I really like. First of all, if we just move from the corporate world into entrepreneurship without the mindset and the community, we just repeat the same situation with the exception of now we don't have teams to do this, and we don't have a big fat paycheck, and we don't have a pension that we're paying into, right? We move from the same type of lifestyle. It's just now we're an entrepreneur. So we're still working too hard. We're still working too many hours. We're still working not as effectively. So thank you for calling that out. And the fact that you were doing that and you did recognize that and you did what was necessary. And then I also love that you mentioned you can ask for what you need, ask the universe for what you need, ask old clients for what you need, ask friends for what you need, but asking for what you need is absolutely crucial. Otherwise, how does it get delivered to you, right? If you don't ask, how are you going to get what you need?
Yeah. And, I think the other thing that I would say is just show up. It is not perfect and it is not easy.
Yeah.
And it can come with great big highs and great big lows, but you got to show up. And I think that was also something that changed once I started surrounding myself with people that could help me or inspire me or just talk me off the ledge. It helped sort of motivate me and focus me. So even when imposter syndrome popped up or I was having a low, I showed up and I did what I felt like I needed to in that day. And you make progress. I remember the first call we had and looking at your website and feeling like I will never get there. I will never have these resources and I will never have these things. And because I don't have them, I can't actually launch my business. And, you said to me, but you will. Because I was where you were one day, right? And it takes just putting one foot in front of the other, doing one newsletter at a time, making one phone call or outreach at a time to make things happen. And it is so true. It's hard. It's hard to put yourself out there. I actually am an outgoing person, but sharing things online historically has not been something I've done. And now if I have a moment, something that I feel like people will recognize or comment on, it'll resonate, I get on and I share it. And, that part has helped me, right? The personal, it's not just the professional. I'm putting out, great content to help current clients, future clients, but I'm also sharing who I am. And that is taking me a lot farther and getting people to the next step to reach out to me and say, hey, I think we should talk. So, showing up, don't underestimate the impact it'll have if you just, work at it every day.
Well, and the thing I love about you is you walk your talk. I mean, you're in marketing. Sadly, I know a lot of people who are in marketing, who are marketers, and yet you wouldn't know it really looking at their content. But if anyone wants to follow Fotine, and you should, we'll definitely put her mostly LinkedIn is where you're the most active, I think, but we'll put all your links in the show notes. But just take a look at her content. It really is impressive. That is one thing that has impressed me since the beginning is the quality of what you put out there. And, it's your personal brand. And the fact that you bring your personal experience into it really humanizes it. And I think that makes you more authentic and transparent and more trustworthy than someone who was just polish. But you have a professionality that a lot of people also don't have. So it's a beautiful balance of the two things. Let's talk a little bit about niche or niche, depending on if you're French Canadian or American. How important do you think it is to niche down into what it is that you offer, both your offers and your audience?
I think it depends on your experience. So when I first started thinking about launching my company, I really struggled with, should I focus on veterinary services or should I expand to small businesses? And what I had to think about is the moment in time, right? and what was going to help me create early momentum. And that would be where my experience lies. So, I started and continue, the majority of my clients are in veterinary services, but have always planned to expand into other verticals, and actually recently have taken on a client in another space to be able to, work in another space. Because in my opinion, someone who is a functional expert in something, that's what I consider myself. I am a strategist. I'm a functional marketing expert. I feel like I could go into any industry. But, the truth of the matter is perception is reality. And in a lot of industries, people think having the experience in the specific industry is really, really important. So I'm leveraging that to help grow my business, but also to create case studies of what Thavma is capable of, what I'm capable of, and the results of working with my customers. And so I do expect I will continue to grow in different verticals and expand my business. But, the important thing is doing the work and learning along the way, right? So I'm learning from my clients. I get inspired about other things. They're helping me shape the content that I put out. Every time I have a phone call with a new or existing client, I get an idea, both in terms of something that I think is relevant for marketing or just what people are experiencing in the moment. So I think it all depends on your experience and thinking through how you go to market.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that is definitely your area of expertise is go to market. So for the people listening in on this podcast, most of us are Gen X or boomers. We've started our digital business, whatever that might be. We may or may not be flourishing with it. What would you say are some really important strategies, things to know when it comes to going to market?
I think you have to put in the work for the foundational pieces, right? So where I start with my clients is always strategy first, because strategy brings clarity. And once you have clarity, then everything else falls into place and makes sense. But it also gives you a path of focus. Even though I know who my customers are, even though I know who my competitors might be or what my value proposition or core message is, I did the work. And it uncovered things that I might take for granted. Things like, what kinds of questions are my customers going to be asking about hiring a fractional CMO? Do people even know what a fractional CMO is? Right? When you're in something, it's easy to just take that for granted. So, what I would say is a go-to-market strategy means you're doing that foundational work. Anything from what the strategy is of your business, who your personas are, and then identifying, your opportunities and how you show up in the market.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too many people just kind of jump into and are reactive to the opportunities that come their way. They're not strategic about how their, what their outreach looks like and what their branding looks like. It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to be a consultant now. So, well, I had a consulting gig with one of my past corporate clients, and they just kind of go down that path. But again, then you're kind of creating the life as a solopreneur entrepreneur that you already had, and the focus that you already had as in the corporate world. And maybe that's not as directed and strategic as you wanted.
Well, it doesn't put you in the driver's seat, right? So, my initial clients came very quickly to me, and I thought, whoa, this is amazing.
This is great.
But they ended up driving the direction of my engagements.
Yes, exactly.
When they end, you're then sort of left with, what do I do now? Right? Because you go all in and they're driving the direction and you don't know where to go. You don't know where to go next. And I think that was a big lesson for me, where you get caught up. It becomes all very romantic. Right? They want to work with you. You put out your first statement of work. They say, what can you do? You say, what do you need? Sure, I can do that. Sure, I can do that. And, maybe you do some great work, but in the meantime, you're still the passenger. And so what the strategy does is it puts you in the driver's seat, and it also brings down that anxiety you have when you open up your own business about where am I going? What am I doing? Right? It gives you a path forward. And it
Yeah.
gets you very clear on what you're offering. So when I put up my first website, I had a lot of services listed because I didn't want to miss an opportunity, right? When I started working on my strategy, I realized I needed to bring it all in. I needed to focus
Yeah.
on a couple of things and really do a good job on those for clients and making sure that I was setting up strong foundations for them. It's very easy to get caught up in the chaos and getting things done and making things happen, but it all comes to an end, and then you realize you're sort of marketing in a circle and you're not doing things that are really going to make an impact.
Yeah. So what do you do to pull you through? Because you said highs and lows, and that is for sure in the life of an entrepreneur. What do you do, or what is it that pulls you through those lower times?
I remind myself of what I've done. So, since launching my business,
Mm-hmm.
I'm also being very mindful and structured about managing my business, right? What are my goals? Anything from revenue to how many newsletters I put out, how many email campaigns I put out. And I go back and look at my plan and I say, okay, where did I set out to be? Where am I today? Have I achieved the things that I needed to? And I
Mm-hmm.
remind myself of the plan, right? And where I am in, am I ahead of plan? And if I'm ahead of plan, then I remind myself it's going to be okay. And then I reach out, I reach out. I have reached out to you. We
Mm-hmm.
have formal sessions,
Mm-hmm.
but I also text you and say, I'm not having a great day. And you're a solopreneur. So we talk about the things about being a
Exactly.
solopreneur. Or I reach out to my people that I've started to pull in and reconnect with to
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm just having one of
Love
those
that.
days. Tell me about what's going on in your world. Have you ever experienced this? What did you do? How did it work out? And it helps through those little points. If none of that works, I spend time with my 2-year-old and we make
Yes.
believe, depending on what she's focused on in that given day or week. So this week, I'm
Yeah.
Maui to her Moana. So we've been doing a lot of Maui and Moana, playing on our imaginary boats and beating the odds.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And for you, it's your daughter. And you're essentially doing all of this because you want to create the life for her that you want her to have, but you want to be the parent to her. And I'm assuming you want to be the role model that she looks up to so that she can move forward and be successful.
Exactly. Exactly.
What final words of advice would you have for the solopreneur who is feeling like they just, if they had the secret weapon, they could take their business to the next level? What would you say that secret weapon was, or that golden key, if we don't want to use the word weapon? How can people reach out to you?
Sure. So I'm going to say something that not everyone might like, but there's no magic key. There is no silver bullet. There is showing up,
Mhm.
and there's putting, a plan behind what you're doing and, letting it guide
Mhm.
you and take on, a life of its own. You just have to, I said it earlier, you have to show up, and
Yeah.
you can't let fear or imposter syndrome
Mhm.
or perfection stand in the way of
Yes.
showing up every day, because it's not perfect. And I still put out
Yeah.
things that have no response to it. And I take that as a lesson. I don't take it as
Yeah.
an insult. I don't get insulted if people don't respond or if something doesn't land exactly the way that I wanted. I use it as a lesson, and then I bring that
Mhm.
to the next thing I'm doing, and then I keep showing up.
Also, the thing is, it's social media. So even though someone might not like or comment on a post, They may vary. It might be that very post that they come back 6 months later, 8 months later, 12 months later and said, I read this post you shared 12 months ago. I've been thinking about it and I'm ready to work with you now. So we just never know.
You never know. If people want to learn more about what I do, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. I encourage you, please connect, follow me, and go to my website, which I'm assuming will be in the show notes. So people
We'll put that in the show notes too. Get all
so
the
people
things.
can go on and see, and you are not alone. There are many of us out there, and whether you're interested in my services or you want to just talk more about opening your own business and being a solopreneur and what that means in the early days, please feel free to reach out in LinkedIn.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. I have loved working with you. I look forward to many more sessions together, and it's been one of the highlights of my business and my career to watch you grow like you have. So I'm very grateful that you are part of my life as well.
Well, thank you for having me today. I've enjoyed talking, and back at you. I just sent him a message and let him know he changed my life. And I look forward to many more sessions with you as well.